Hello, this is George Sandman. I'm the founder and CEO of Growth Drive. And Growth Drive is a system used by business advisors to drive client profits, growth, and value. Now, we're also a community. Every week we get together to talk about all things business advisor, everything clients, cases, things we're seeing out in the world. Now, tune in here to this podcast, and you can join the conversation by scanning this QR code, passcode 867-5309. Jump into the conversation. Everyone's welcome. We're looking forward to having you. So here we go. On with the show. Good morning, gentlemen. So after that, ladies and gentlemen,
everybody's too nice to Ed.
we were just having a secret conclave, Mike, Rick, Ed, and I. So it's not so secret. You know how I've created something that should help this community, and we'll see. So I have an entire qualification and self-help stack. I used SuperClaire. What's SuperClaire? Well, stick around and find out.
Yeah. See, I saw somebody said something out about Claude. I didn't know if it was Claude or Claw.
Claude.
Oh, is the black market. Yeah.
And then, but we were also all talking about Plaud, P-A-L-U-D.
Yeah.
Which is a little card.
There's so many.
There you go. Mike, can you show a 3D? I roll that around 3D. Ladies, look, Vanna. Excellent. So that little device that Mike has a accompanying, that's funny. I put my phone somewhere. It has a pacifier. It has an accompanying app. Well, I can't wave my hand around. And Plaud, stay tuned. Spoiler alert, stay tuned. Paul Manning! Ladies and gentlemen, how are you, man? Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah.
I'll announce it publicly. I mean, the study group is closed. People who's interested in the study group, it is for people who have existing, this study group, and there will be more. This study group that Paul is in is for people with existing clients who have been involved for a while. And we are adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new members in the new year. Paul, I thought you'd be interested to hear that.
I am very interested to hear that.
Ed, by the way, Ed, did you and I discuss you joining the study group?
No, but you mentioned it, but I didn't hear anything further.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that.
Raise the question, and then you got a phone call.
Yeah, because the other study group that we're going to start, Mike Garrison, is for people who are new to being business advisors and who will have some different interests, and their burning interest is winning new engagements. Then we'll transition and delivering client wins. So how do we, as a group, workshop best practices for winning new engagements? Okay, well that goes to the chart that we were just looking at, guys. That's the vertical, winning new engagements, and then the horizontal is delivering client wins.
Yeah, I'll put Joe in that deal with Mike, because Mike needs somebody to back him up.
Yeah, exactly. I do. Confidence. Hey, George.
Yes, sir.
My beta version,
Eric, man, good morning,
of the AI workflow to create ideal clients for road drivers.
Yes,
is being tested.
It's in the lab. Well, I'm thinking to raise the garage door on the skunk work.
No.
You know, early in my career, I got to work with guys.
Side door.
Early in my career, I worked with the first business we did. We had a lot of Bell Labs. Imagine being a young man or young woman, doesn't matter, but I was a young man in a business where most of the rest of the business is either Bell Labs Skunkworks or DARPA. It was an education on stinking steroids, man, on steroids. Anyway, so raise the door, man. Open the Skunkworks, whatever you're doing, Mike. Let's go. Eric, how are you? Mr. Lorenz, your ears might have been ringing. And Joe, I saw that you had to cancel our meeting later today. Not a worry. We'll get together anytime. What's on everyone's mind? It's been a heck of a year. Wait till next year, guys. We have so much good stuff. So my mission, one of the things that we are going to continue to pursue, and well, we're going to continue to pursue, I hope successfully, is creating better ways. How do I connect you with business owners? You know, business owners need us. They need you.
My question is, why isn't George getting more referrals?
I did not.
No, I'm dead
Hey,
serious.
Barry, good morning. How are you, man?
I just want to throw it out there. Why is, and George doesn't get to answer, by the way, right? But why aren't we referring more business to George?
He got a great one from me last year that's still working out with Carl J. Cox.
Carl J. Cox.
That was a damn good referral. That was the referral that makes referrals.
Hey, Paul, I went to his conference, as was George. It is unbelievable, and his cohort follow-up is just dynamic.
But
Yeah,
next year it's going to be even better. Next year it's going to be vastly better.
Well, I think that do we have an old person speaking?
wait,
Nice thing
hey,
about
Larry.
the
Maya.
speakers this past year ranged from super young to experienced individual that have sold a business and are now doing personal one-on-one coaching.
I got all of that. Extremely young, and I've sold a business.
Yeah.
I
the
told Mark he
speakers,
needs to have a session on transitional value movement.
Sounds like you're
Problem
volunteering.
that we're experiencing is a lot of the young business owners are deciding that they want to bring in partners or they want to move some of it to a young family member to play games with some opportunities with some tax strategies, especially with young people in college where you can create some income for them very nicely. And also on the other side, we can honestly say some people are using it as a charitable donation opportunity to move some cash out of the business and to increase the value of the remaining person's percentage of ownership.
yeah, on paper. I mean, that sounded like a backhanded compliment. I mean, yeah.
Happy Hanukkah the day after, guys.
Your question, this, I don't want the coffee clutch to be about me and my benefit. I want it to be about you and your benefits. Larry and I have been working on, just briefly, right? Larry had an idea. Larry's a great thinker. Larry, do you want to talk? Do you mind if I at least describe the 9-box?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy to put it up on the screen, but Larry, we were having a meeting yesterday and it was Larry, Andy, Bonnie, smart woman, and Mark Blackton, smart guy, both very experienced and both very different professionals. Anyway, out of that conversation and what was being surfaced in that conversation, that hour-long meeting, Larry created a 9-box. I took Larry's creation and I fed it into Super Claire and came back with some interesting thoughts. I don't think it's done. I think it needs more cogitating, but the 9-box really goes to client acquisition on the vertical, client engagements on the vertical axis, and knowledge effectiveness on the horizontal. And if we think about it as winning client engagements and on the horizontal delivering client wins, and we scale that up, how does what does the top right-hand box look like? What does the middle box sound like? And how does it feel? So Larry, that was terrific thinking. Thank you.
Well, I'll just jump in, George, and share why I was playing with this. And that is Bonnie yesterday, who has 9 different ventures after her last name, and I have half, is that she admitted with just pure openness her challenge of going to market and when she's confident enough to do so. Yet she possesses a lot of experience and credentials, and she's just not there yet. Where other people go to market quicker with less knowledge and less experience. And so how do we put all of us, because we all come at our craft here together from different experiences, levels of knowledge and confidence, how do we partition ourselves? And then it's less about partitioning, but more than how do we help move people to the upper right?
Yes.
Which, George, your Super Claire has defined as authority.
Yes.
And the lower left box with the least amount of growth drive knowledge, that knowledge is not just knowledge, it's growth drive knowledge. And the least amount of client impact experience is just theory. They don't have the knowledge, they don't have the experience. It's an idea. And how do we move people to the upper right to gain in growth drive knowledge and gain in experience and impact so they build confidence and value? And that's the root of this from all our conversations. And we all sit in a different box, but our aim ultimately is to get to the upper right box, the most knowledge with the greatest impact on client.
Which I will say, guys, as the middle of the spider's web, I see play out. And Larry, I'll pick on you if that's okay. When we first met, and this isn't thanks to me, this is thanks to you. So I want people to hear that because you are diligent and hardworking. But you've gone from working with firmly lower middle market and even some Main Street clients to working with very large and sophisticated multi-$100 million organizations. And how do we help our clients move up, right? And how do we move ourselves up so that we maximize our impact on businesses, stakeholders, communities. I mean, the bigger the business, the more leverage we have. So, I mean,
it's an impact. It's a confidence impact index in some ways, with the ability to use this to say, how do I move from this box to the next? What is that I need help, mentoring, knowledge, tools, and so on?
You know what? To heck with it. I'm going to share my screen so we all know. So we're not talking in. So guys, this is what Larry framed out. I gave to Super Claire. We now have multiple Claires. I'm always training a smarter model. So I fed this to Super Claire. It is not done, right, guys? This is where AI and humans, we need to sit down and workshop this to get better definitions, better labels, whatever. But the concept is a good one. And what Larry was just saying, we want to, how do we develop into, and the path to mastery, guys, doesn't end, right? The path to mastery continues because you've accumulated enough experience to be considered a master in this community. Doesn't mean you stop. You're a black belt with 1 Dan, 2 Dans, 9 Dans. You learn a second martial art. Okay. So how do our path to mastery, which down here would be at a not even in the community perhaps, and up here is someone who is winning engagements, winning the kinds of engagements that they want to be involved in, right? Goes to quality of life, personal satisfaction, et cetera, personal vision and mission, and is doing it in a way that they are an authority. And if you want to Mike Garrison, I don't know where you are in my stack here, but if you want to be in the Mike Garrison, you're getting introduced everywhere, working towards getting into this upper right-hand box, it would probably contribute. I'll stop there. So guys, these labels and these definitions are literally a first pass at 6:30 this morning. So
George and Larry, I love this 9 box. This is really cool. As I'm listening, I'm thinking about professions, architecture, physician, lawyer as examples, right? All of them go to a lot of school, but let's just pick on architecture for a minute. You come out as an architect, and most people who graduate from any one of those 3 or any professional school, whatever you want to don't immediately go out and do something. They don't immediately jump from school to be leading an organization or being the world expert. Generally speaking, they do some sort of either formal or informal internship or apprenticeship, right? There's a mentoring path that they work in somebody else's firm. They come out and they're a lawyer in some big firm, and they learn how to do it, and they decide, I love the big firm and I'm going to go be a partner in the big firm. Or they decide after 5 years, and CPA is the same. This is what I didn't go this path, but this is what most of my brethren did. They went into big 8 or big 4 accounting firms. They did it for 3 to 5 years, and then they broke off and went on their own doing something else, right? And our expectation that we would just, take C3D or take something and immediately jump into being an expert and everybody wants to hire us, I think is very unrealistic. I think there's a great community here. This community right here on this call comes here every week to share stuff and to help people. Mike does it all the time. Hey, who needs some help thinking about how to get new customers? Who needs some help thinking about how to do things? I've offered several times, hey, I'll partner with you and help you do something so that you don't feel like there's no net around you. I think part of the way we get there as a community is mentoring and helping people and having that sort of formal or informal mentorship, internship, apprenticeship that helps people actually do it. I love your path to mastery, George, but it includes not just sitting on your own and reading a bunch of stuff and reading blogs and thinking you're going to jump in and be in the deep end right away.
Well, that Eric, I love that thinking. Absolutely love that thinking. And that's what you're right. That's what we have as a community. Some of it is formalized. We talked a little earlier about the study group. Some of it is ad hoc. I know that, for example, Steve Newtbar, coming on and working with some of you, that Jemiah is new to the community, might be an opportunity that, we work with each other. Eric, I love your thinking.
George,
Yes.
I'm new to this. Let me tell you what I'm thinking of doing in January. I don't have very many large clients, but I can see every client that has a business has some need, some level of this knowledge. So I'm going to take every business client I have and run them through the model and share some of that information with every client that I have for two reasons. One, it gives me practice using the system.
Heck yes.
Two, hopefully I can get some type of engagement out of it. Also, it shows that client I've got this additional knowledge, and maybe a larger client would come my way.
Yeah.
I got a newer, fancier car now. So the other thing is, don't know, we all have different ways of learning, and my favorite way to learning is case studies. And if there were a line of case studies that could almost take us through these different boxes sometimes, or more important, case studies on different types of industries and different sizes of clients, that gives us examples that the new guys can fall back on and say, hey, I've seen this before. Let me use it this way.
Rick, on the case studies, just heck yes. And Claire, not super Claire, yes, but Claire will create case studies. So when we pull embedded Claire 2 out of and put her in your hands, like right now, you can take a Clarity Level 1 or Clarity Level 2 report and you can take your senior leadership alignment report also, or you can load assets into Claire and tell her to write a case study, and tell her to write it as a narrative for a client, tell her to write it you can ask her to do a number of things, and she'll iterate, she can iterate, and you can generate, and you can say to Claire, based on what I need to create a case study. I need to create a before and after for a manufacturing business that has 17 million of revenue, whatever, tell her. And then you can say, and by the way, here's my Clarity Level 1 analysis, or don't, and see what she comes up with. I practically guarantee, and you will get something meaningful, and tell her you need it as a one pager. And if she, creates something huge, be like, whoa, I need this to be client facing. I need it to be written in vernacular. I need it to be compelling. And we could do things like, remember at the summit, guys, Andy talked about persuasion, which is someone's intellectual property with full, but the persuasion concept, you can weave that into your narrative, put it in the Dan Sullivan, put it in the whatever. So Rick, those cases are there.
Okay.
And if you have a specific case, shoot me an email. One of us will create it, format it, vet it, send it back to you. But by doing it yourself, you'll be learning to fish.
Don't we have a person in Washington that was collecting case work?
We do. And yes.
Yeah, let's not make it complicated, because it will slow down the process. Yesterday, thinking and tying some things together, and is that Bonnie yesterday, there's this thought, when is the moment I go to market? And she's saying, when am I ready? You know what I need, everyone? I need George a case to understand how better to roadmap my path to going to market. And so we have seen people get stuck in a box, in one of those 9 boxes. And Mike, to borrow your language, this is not just comfort in knowledge. This is comfort, right, Mike? And I'll hand it over to you, in sales process. How do I go about the sales process to move to that next box as well? So it's knowledge. Everyone has it. Some people are entrepreneurial. They'll go to market when they're halfway there. Other people want to feel it like I'm there. And that's a 95%. But yet they don't have a sales process to get there. Mike, I'll hand it to you from that sense.
I thought you explained it really well, actually. I guess looking back, so the context for this is me, and then the people that I've been training for the last 30 years, right? Is that there is a necessary point you have to reach where you believe enough in your ability to deliver value that you're willing to be more aggressive in sharing that offering out in the market, just to use the context that we're talking in right now. So the question becomes and there's no right or wrong. This isn't an act of Congress, right? For some people, it's going to be, I want to get my PhD from 3 different universities, and I want to be able to answer any question with, was it eidetic memory or whatever about growth drive? I want to have the entire book memorized, and now I'll be able to sell. Well, The problem is if you've got all the knowledge about how to serve a client, but you're not able to compete in the marketplace, you are going to struggle. The same point, to be fair to Larry and I, our many conversations is if you've got all the salesmanship in the world, but no ability to deliver actual client outcomes, well, you're going to have a different problem. You may actually go to market successfully and acquire clients, and then you will experience the rule of 200, which is even worse by referral, by the way. Right. And so when I look at this thing right here, provided one goes through C3D and one gets comfortable with selling only what you can deliver and then collaborating, to Eric's really great point earlier, Eric, like being willing to collaborate with other growth drivers that are safe drivers, nothing moves you to the top right than actually learning how to really handle commercial sales, right? Because commercial sales is not asking for business. It's every aspect of what you do, because it's what matters most to the client, right? And so that there's two different paths to mastery that, George, I think need to both be accomplished, and there's different, some are going to be prioritized by different people different ways. I don't know if that made any sense. I'm going to shut up.
It's interesting because what you're kind of teasing out there is a little bit is the tension between, not the tension, the relationship between knowledge and gaining wisdom. When in your own, from your own comfort, your own confidence, are you triggered to develop more wisdom by taking your knowledge out on the track?
And you need to do that with growth drive and sales.
Growth drive and sales. And to Eric's point, and possibly a more wise, perhaps not more knowledgeable, but someone who has more experience, who's there. And guys, that's happening in the community right now, ad hoc, right? And it's happening formally. Barry leads a study group where we're not working on client acquisition at all. That's actually a taboo, but we are working on knowledge development, strategy, cases. So,
George, I'm looking at this a little bit differently, in the sense that all the people on this call and most of the people in the community have a specialized or have a knowledge base that they can take to the market. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting. And we're hired, at least in my experience is, we're hired to solve problems, and those problems can be very specific. And if we bring in all the other aspects that we're talking about here, as we solve those problems or develop our methodology that incorporates growth drive into that solution, it's one way of, first of all, solving a problem for a client, and second of all, gaining more experience in the application, because we can't know everything there is to know. There is not one firm or one individual that knows all of it. And that's why we collaborate. As far as when is the right time to go to market? Well, I believe the right time to go to market is any time, because you're solving a problem that you are very familiar with.
Yeah.
And it's on that basis. The other thing I'd like to understand in these 9 boxes is that if the market if we're doing exit planning and the market is, let's say, baby boomers, what is the effect of having somebody without the gray hair or hair to begin with communicating with the business owner who's been in business for 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And he looks at you and says, "You're a young kid. What do you know about my business? I've experienced this." It's oftentimes difficult, but if you're going in to solve a problem, does that take that position from the owner out of the picture? I don't know. I believe it does, but I like to see if my theory is even valid. But
well, I think
how many of us have had our kid or maybe for some of us our grandchild teach us how to use some sort of technology that we don't know how to use? To your point, Barry, there's plenty of things to learn from other generations, but they're not going to bring us great wisdom that they've been around the block more times than we have, but they sure may know some little thing far better than we do, because they use it all the time.
Well, Eric, that's my point. If if we're marketing the whole enchilada, okay, we're going to get nowhere. We're talking to an owner or somebody about a specific, first of all, find out what their problems are. Okay. That goes through just exploratory conversation that Mike can, advise us on. But really to solve that one problem that my 18-month-old granddaughter can help me solve. So that's to your point.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how you have that conversation.
It is how you position yourself.
One of the bigger issues when people look at moving through that 9-box is most people think about, how do I conduct the meeting, right? How do I conduct the sales meeting with the prospect, which is why they fail at sales abysmally and they can't scale shit, right? Versus how the hell do I become worth meeting? How do I get ideal prospects wanting to sit in that meeting with me? And marketing is a component of sales. Sales is not a component of marketing. So my opportunity for these younger people we're talking about, Barry, is if you can embrace the fact that maybe earlier in your career, whether you're a seasoned person that's switching from being a controller to a growth driver, early in your career as a consultant, you're probably going to be able to be better at within your natural market and within referrals, getting meetings than you are going to be closing deals. That's where partnering with Barry or Paul or Ed or Joe or Eric or Jemiah or Steven or Rick. That's where having enough humility and wisdom, which I think is a key thing we're talking about today that we don't always hit, but having the wisdom and humility to understand what part of the entire sales process, why should I meet with you? Why should I buy? Why should I refer? Where are you good at? And then assemble team members. And maybe if you're bringing in Eric for something that could end up being a $10,000 a month deal, maybe initially because understand your role, maybe you're coming in and you're only getting a third, maybe even a quarter, because Eric is the master and taking you through the process. But you're still better off than you were just running LinkedIn posts incessantly, right? And sending out 1,000 emails a second. And so that's, to your point, Barry, is you got to be able to understand that there's different levels of mastery within sales through that entire quadrant as well.
Now, I find like you're getting that initial phone call because you have a demonstrated expertise in X. And I'm the business owner. I have this problem with
It only
X.
happens if they know you exist, right? That's the problem here is this is the fantasy, and I'm not talking about you, Barry, but this is the fantasy of people that have been doing business for a while, is thinking that people are just going to come out of the woodwork and call you. You've got to be able to you have to be able to identify, because most people market to archetypes, avatars, and bullshit like that. I'm sorry, you're not Coca-Cola. You lose. Instead, how can you identify in your natural market? How can you identify for these new people that are business owners, or people like Eric, if you're lucky enough, or you, Barry, if they're close to you? How can you get a COI to potentially get interested? Because people forget, the first thing you must win is being worth meeting, right? And the only way you win being worth meeting is being fucking found. Okay. I'm not mad at anybody here, but I'm so tired of people running from the reality of what sales is, trying to compartmentalize it into something that some stupid academic at a dumbass college told you with marketing degrees, right? Like the only reason I'm successful is that's all I think about. I am nowhere so I'm going to go out on a limb. You ready? Everyone on this call is better at growth drive than me. Every single person. And if Larry was still on, it would be even more the case, right? I know where I land, and that's why I collaborate.
Well, I think you hit it right on the head there, Mike, that knowledge and creating an awareness of business owners of what they don't know is one of the biggest challenges that most of us encounter in our discussions with owners. And one of the things we have to be good at is, how do you bring forth a question to that prospect owner that immediately says, gee, I don't know the answer to that question. And, one of the things that I often ask, and that is that, are you making a gross profit better than your industry?
Hey, Ed, how are they getting to you? How are they getting to that conversation with you?
I've got that marketing guru over on the other side of the microphone here. Joe and I collaborate on it, but we put on events to get people to come towards us to sit and just meet and discuss what we do.
Hey, who's Jewish?
It's Jemiah. Thank you very much.
Correct. Yeah.
I typed Jemiah, I hit send, and Jewish showed up. By the way, everything right with that, but Jemiah.
I just got a comment, man, that that's one of the reasons I love this community. I agree with everyone's comments. And as a person newer to the community, but also newer to Growth Drive, I'm implementing a little bit of all of it. And that may be because of my background dealing with like social and emotional intelligence, self-awareness. I like to have a framework for clients. Know yourself, choose yourself, be yourself. And it would start with that self-awareness, knowing your strengths, your core values, your why, then taking all of that knowledge and forming it around what Mike was saying and something I'm having to do. You guys couldn't see it. I got notebooks everywhere that I'm playing with Andy, with AI Driven Leader, and forming my brand identity. So going back to what I'm good at, what my values are, putting them in and forming them around what I care about, what I bring, and then bringing in the knowledge that I have, the unique IP around the unique problems I particularly have solved, and then bring it in Growth Drive's framework. And I'm blending it all together, but it starts with Mike, kind of what Mike was alluding to. Part of my first quarter of next year is having to recreate my specific, and not saying I'm gonna do a million posts or any thing, but my specific brand identity in the marketplace. And as he said, they have to have a reason. They have to have a reason to come to me, meaning I have to speak to the specific demographic or put myself out there for a specific uh, initial that I solve and find ways to market that in a certain way. Once all of that is done, then I can start implement. Then I know in the back of my head that Growth Drive is a solution. They need to put SO. I know that in the back of my head, but I have to get them even in the conversation or even whether it's through speaking, however way I do it, even get them to the conversation to know, like, and trust me as an authority in a specific area. You don't even have to be Growth Drive. I know Growth Drive, the solution, but I have to get them to even know, like, and trust me enough around something to even get to that layer, that strategic, intentional conversation with the owner or decision makers to even get them to that solution. And so
something as you dig into C3D, you are going to the growth conversation, your particular skills, your particular experience is highly relevant and probably more relevant than most of us to successfully leading the growth conversation, which is at the end of the day is an emotional conversation, right? It's, where is your life going? And then how must the business serve your life? And then how is it serving your life now? But basically, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Something I've been having meetings like with Mike, with Andy, and then who they recommend, kind of like you said, bridging what I think I know and knowledge to having the, kind of Mike was saying, to have the humility enough to say, hey, I'm new to this framework. I need a different perspective from some experienced people with specific skill sets and how to frame it. And just like that chart, bridging an interset of that together to where, start being comfortable with how I position myself going forward in the market. And it's a bit, like you said, it's every single one of the elements everyone's talking about, and having the awareness to know I can't just do one. I can't just be good at marketing without learning sales, without being knowledgeable, without actually knowing what I uniquely bring. And it's bridging all of those together and just slowly going out there, even if it's to a point to where I have to partner the first 3-4 clients.
Yeah.
And that practice out there until you're confident enough in what you bring, or however way it works. But I'm just saying, I agree with everyone in bridging all of those together.
Well, 100%, Jemiah. And to Eric's point, Eric, I shot you an email. This concept of mentorship and collaboration. I mean, that's what differentiates this community from.
Yeah. I just jump in here too, Jemiah. You reminded me of something, and all deference to my effing friend Mike Garrison and respect, but the seminal book that changed my mind on this whole thing, and it's not about the sales part. Mike's absolutely right on that. It's about the how we think of ourselves, and that's the book E-Myth, right? Yeah. Too many of us are thinking of ourselves that everybody's told us we're a great baker and we're great at baking things, and so because you're a great baker, you should go out and start a bakery. Well, owning a bakery is different than being a baker. And many of us have not thought about the difference between being a bakery owner and what that takes and the things that need to happen vis-a-vis all the things that Mike was talking about going to market and being able to have people come. You can be the greatest baker in the world. If nobody comes into your bakery and smells your bakery or tastes your bakery, it doesn't matter. You could be the best and nobody's going to buy it, right? See the argument about VHS and Beta. Beta was a better technology. VHS won, right?
And wait, do you know why VHS won?
Because they had Sony behind them.
Oh, even better. The pornography industry standardized.
There you go. It always comes back to porn.
Thank you, Barry.
So Barry's got to go. Okay, Barry, man, thank you. Have a great day. I'll talk to you,
Barry. My point is, go read the book E-Myth if you haven't, and go.
If you haven't read E-Myth, stop. If you haven't read E-Myth, guys, that's OG. Right. You got to read E-Myth. You have to read Lords of Strategy. You have to read Measure What Matters. I'm not saying that these are all incredibly engaging, but Lords of Strategy is.
E-Myth is a 3-hour read, maybe, right? It's simple, but it will help you, just like some of these other things we're talking about. It'll help you reset. And that's not intended for there's a discussion between all of us, but we all realize there are other people who watch these that are not on the call. This is a broader message. If you haven't read E-Myth, go frickin' read it, because it's going to help you understand the difference between being an expert at and being really good at what you do, and the idea of having to go to market and be a business owner and being an entrepreneur. That's the E in E-Myth. And how do you present yourself as that thing instead of just being good at it, right? It doesn't replace Mike's comments, but it just emphasizes that we got to think about ourselves the right way first and foremost. And we have to understand there's a different set of skills than being an employee who's really good at something and other people feed you, and being somebody who goes out to market and actually has to feed themselves. Go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to add one thing. So first of all, the reason I'm so passionate is because I spent so much time talking to people within Growth Drive and especially beyond that have been pursuing the, hey, get really good at what you do path and have no clients, right? And so that's hundreds of conversations I have every year. It's part of my growth strategy. It works. But the other thing is this, it's people don't understand that at the end of the day, it's all a resource allocation game, right? And so when I look at sales, I look at it as a business owner, not as a salesperson. And I'm playing a resource allocation game, right? And one of the things that I find really frustrating sometimes is when people that have executed the world's oldest marketing tactic called survive long enough, right? and then pretend that because they fucking survived long enough that they have any acumen at marketing and sales, right? So like, here's my deal. If you can't tell me exactly where all of your business is coming from next year by name, by prospects, you suck at sales. You have no idea what sales is, and you have no idea what marketing is, right? You are a dilettante that is playing around and hoping that everything goes fine.
I'm going to put you down as undecided, Mike.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Everything's great until it's not. Everything's great until it's not. Everything's great until you get disabled. Like I lost my voice last year and I had to figure out potentially a brand new way to go to market without me being able to speak, right? I lost my businesses because my son was born premature and I was emotionally disabled. Like if you think that your organic referrals, which are giving you just enough to do okay, if you think that's a sales and marketing system, you're a fool, right? Because when something goes wrong, you'll have no ability to correctly allocate resources to a strategy that's going to work.
No passion there.
I just like we got to think about the other growth drivers that aren't as successful as we are, that haven't done what we do. That's where my passion is. It's for the people that are, they're going to read Growth Driving Advisor, or they're going to see one of George's posts or something like that, and they're going to be interested, right? It's my passion is Rick, because Rick is a client of mine. Like, it's like, damn it, when you get down to it, if you don't have the confidence that you know you're going to have enough business next year because you know who your prospects are going to be, because you know your territory. Like when I sold copiers, I knew the counties that I was assigned to. I knew because this is before the internet. We had lists of all the businesses, and I knew, I wasn't hoping or guessing. I knew exactly who the freaking prospects were in my assigned area. And I was running multi-year strategies to make sure that I knew when their copiers turned over. Anyways, that's
No, Mike, let's drill into that because you were making a very, very good point that you will see like LinkedIn gurus say something very similar. So, Mike, if and by the way, I'm with you. We would go to the Maryland State Library in Annapolis and we would put out the big books and we would do our research and identify and then figure out who was running that business or the decision. So, Mike, if I hear you correctly, you're saying, okay, you're in Topeka and you want to do business with manufacturing businesses and you want to have as clients manufacturing businesses with revenues of 3 million to 50 million. And if you don't know the names of those businesses, the names of their owner or CEO, and probably the name of several senior leaders, and if you do not have a strategy to get in front of them, then you're not in sales. And your strategy should include in significant part figuring out who the hell they know, like, and trust, who knows, likes, and trusts you.
Yeah. So like real quick, you ready? I'm looking at the people on this call, all of whom I've had conversations with either one-on-one or in groups. And you know what we don't have on this call? We do not have an expertise at growth drive problem. Like in our community, we do not have an expertise at growth drive problem. We have a massive prospecting problem. Massive.
So what the F, Mike? Your life should be full.
It's yes.
And and Mike's not wondering what he's going to do next.
Joe, jump in. Joe, you were going to comment on something.
There's got to be
muted, Joe.
Mute. No, it's not. Joe has got to have a picture to share with us.
We're not hearing you.
He's not muted, but his microphone's not working.
Yeah.
Ed, did you do that?
He'll be back.
But Ed is muted.
Ed is muted.
Hey guys, I just come back in general, and Mike, I love your passion. Thank you, brother. And thank you for caring enough about us to, scold us for not thinking about this. Again, I would just remind people, this is exactly what eMyth is about. Just because you're a great baker doesn't mean you can go to market and be a great owner of a bakery and attract people to your bakery, right? Mike, that's what Mike's hitting on right now is all the stuff about how do we get people to come in the door of our bakery. We're all good bakers, but how do we get people to show up?
One of the greatest risk mitigation strategies is a professional sales process.
I just had Addie, who Ed, you and I met in Phoenix. She was on our podcast and I was on hers. And Mike, to your point, process prevents chaos, right? It's not constraining. It is discipline equals freedom, right? Process, to your point, a sales process prevents chaos. Well, it also prevents us from running around doing all that busy work that we all do. Guilty. Process, discipline equals freedom, man.
Hey, Mike, question. Well, Joe, is your mic on?
So
nope.
Well, yeah, it is.
Okay, Plod, get it, Plod.
Yeah, he's got the Plod wristband.
Got the Plod this is the microphone, and this is the whole thing. It's just fantastic as far as gathering information, consolidating it, grabbing quotes. I had it at my mother's 90th birthday party, 2.5 hours of audio recording. It came back with some perfect quotes, different people speaking, toasts and whatnot. It was just a fantastic way to not worry about taking notes, just be in the listening mode. And all too often, how are we letting ourselves be distracted by trying to take notes during the meeting? So Plaud, Plaud. Two things that really sort of look at, do we understand? We're kind of doing the business owners will go into the finder doer model, right? The finder doer model will only take you so far in a construction company, whatever business you're in. The person goes out and finds the leads, then does the lead, does the work, and then collects the funds. So do we have a model for that? And do we have a model that is a collaborative model? Do we really know? Is anyone coming to the group with that experience behind them that can kind of demonstrate what that looks like, because that's really a project management task to make sure no balls get dropped. So as I get further into the PEI world and the owner-based dependency piece that George is working with them and collaborating on, is that the risk of something falling off the plate has us so wired up that we can't trust in it. We don't have an experience in going back to process, Mike. Do we have a true process? And within the BEI program, they're a lot more directive as far as formula based and using Fletcher's formula and promoting that within the system. So just thinking about that from what prevents us from taking those risks of letting go, and inclusion is the feeling that somehow things are going to get dropped. So with that all, then you lead with your strength, right? So I'm looking at it just today. I'm like, I gotta write this book, right? This 10 years in a row. I've been thinking about it for 20 years, you know. And then this morning I go on to Mike Rock and say, hey, could I have a book that's always in different variations of publications? It's a continuation book, right? So as I learn year by year, I update the chapters, I update the things. So I really have a book, but I don't have a finished book, as a way to kind of just get started, right? And I'm going through this, have the, sit down and write all this stuff. I have the good concept. It's, what is the owner dependency tax? Do we truly understand what that tax is for you, Mr. Owner? And how do we quantify that? Personal. What's the interruption in your grandchildren's world? What's preventing you from having that life experience you really, really want? So that's where I'm leading with. And then once we figure that out, then the other things become a much easier selection process going down the aisleway. I'm gonna grab onto a resource here and resource there and bring them to. But so that's what I'm doing as far as leading with your passion, and then collecting. Well, I'm going through the database, creating your idea, BEI roundtable. Create one in your community. Collaborating effort with BEI and Growth Drive, I think, has so much potential, because they're capturing the business owner on a more emotional level, and they got a better. It's different, and they both have their pros and cons, but what I'm saying is that way in which you can get your peer group, local relationship. If I don't feel comfortable handing it off to someone because I just don't know a legal advisor, I don't know how it's going to work out. You got to figure out a way to surround yourself with local resources. So Ed and I are walking through, who do we know, the attorneys, space, all this. And I go to Ed, I just know the owners. I don't know the M&A attorneys. I just don't. So who in your market would be I'll say this is not someone like myself who's come out of the business community, running a business, Vistage chair, who's kind of connected, but how do you find that person in your community that can make those strategic introductions and short circuit this whole dance that we're trying to dance with referrals? And I'd say it's perfect, but it certainly is a way to kind of do some inclusiveness. And maybe I'm just way off and we just have a one-off example here, but it's that's sort of like my take on this. We really kind of think about systems, but the system is more, it's certainly the leads, and then referring out the lead that doesn't fit for you. But then more importantly, it's like, when you do have a program, how do I do the inclusionary work and trust the advisors you're leaning on to get the work done?
And Joe, building on what you just said, which is terrific, is that, let's talk about BEI specifically. There are chapters in a lot of different communities. BEI has introduced a chapter model, and that chapter model is built around collaboration. And that will lead to biz dev. It is a collaborative framework. I think it's going to be great for you and Ed in the Columbus market. And there are others in our community who are,
Mike,
having this
question for you. If we think we're better bakers than we are at attracting people to our bakery, is there a model where we could, I know you have a model for building referral, got that. Is there a model where we say, boy, that's not the thing I'm really good at. I need to partner with somebody in some respect to do the business development for me?
So absolutely. Like, so here's the thing, like you don't have to be great at sales, but you have to own sales,
Yeah.
right?
Like any owner.
And so for example, like, I mean, I've said this on to conference stages before, referrals aren't for everybody, right? Fundamentally, if you're looking to intentionally sell this way, you have to decide whether you're willing to do it or not, right? And many on this call, we may be at a point in our career where like, no, I'm not willing to do that. But for somebody younger, you have to do a resource allocation game, Eric, because here's the deal. You have to pay for sales one way or another. You pay for it with training, you pay for it with experience, you pay for it with marketing or whatever. And I always tell people, like, there's nothing wrong with advertising as long as it works, right? And so what all advertising is knowing. So most people that buy advertising, their consultants, have no idea what their acquisition cost is absent advertising. They have no idea how much it costs to onboard a client. They have no idea their carrying cost of that client. They have no idea the real duration of that engagement. They have no idea about the referral percentage. Advertising, when you don't know those figures, can be really expensive and dangerous, just like any form of marketing. So fundamentally, my advice is know your shit. Like, know your model, know what it costs you to run your business. And then I'm about to do advertising. We've got a $2,000 a month budget that's going to go up probably 2 to 3x over the next year or two, because one of the business models that I'm running, one of the businesses I'm running, is going to be really well served by it. And I'm fighting for attention, but I know what my costs are. I know. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
Paul, I feel like I'm talking like you right now, right? Like, measure stuff, know what the costs are, know what you're doing, and this sounds like a blog from Paul, by the way.
No, and Paul is absolutely right. Paul's an engineer.
Duh. By training. I can't chat anymore.
By training. And by the way, by avocation. I mean, you have an engineer's mind, which is a beautiful thing.
And I do read your blogs, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hey guys.
Eric, back to something you said, and Mike, something you said. I looked up something. One of the books that I particularly like from my experience in trying to solve problems, and Mike, to you being known, I'm lucky, I'm blessed that there's only 2 Paul Menigs in the world. So if you look up Paul Menig on the internet, you find me right away. And also I'm well known in the trucking industry. There's a book called The Challenger Sale.
Yes.
And I think it is a little more appropriate to the sales that we have. We are not transactional in our sales. And that referral may still take literally years before you get a contract. I've tracked some of my stuff, and everything comes out of my knowledge of trucking somehow, one way or another. Some of the contracts have taken 7 years to go from first contact to having a little bit of work to do with somebody. And that Challenger Sale talks about how it's not just a drip campaign, where once a week they get something. It's more like once a quarter you reach out to somebody and you actually have a conversation with them and nurture them for a long period of time. It's not like last week I stopped at a golf shop on the way home from a networking event. Believe it or not, the Indian tribes out here bought a manufacturing operation that does printing. I went up and visited that, stopped at a golf shop. I'm kind of looking for a new golf bag, saw one on the floor of this thing, went online and bought it. Okay. That is not our sales. You cannot just put out one ad and expect 100 people will sign up to talk to you and 2 of them will engage you. I don't see it working that way for me. And yes. And there's another one that I have access to. I have a copy buried in my electronic files that talks about the hunters and the gatherers. And it was some large company thing, similarly kind of thing. So I'd recommend that book, but it is not a 3-hour read, Eric. That one will take you a good 10 hours to get through.
Challenger Sale is really good. I like it. They just came out with some new stuff. Brian Emerson did. So that's out there. So if you look it up on LinkedIn, you'll see it. My favorite book, my number one favorite book to start people with sales on is Gap Selling by Keenan. And
Read it.
So that is if you understand gap selling, you can then bridge to Challenger Sale. You can then bridge to a whole bunch of stuff. But gap selling is just a little bit easier to conceptualize the basic methodology. So, and I've got probably 60 books on sales. If anybody,
I'll put this into Circle as well. But one of the things I've decided to concentrate more on next year is podcasts. So, George, you've got your podcast where you're basically interviewing growth drivers. My intent is to focus on leaders of manufacturing, technology, and transportation companies where I'm focused on. Now, that would ideally be the owner, but it could be the head of sales. It could be the head of operations to find out what their challenges are and what their successes are. I'll make an offer to all of you. I've got this new platform. It's the same one that Carl J. Cox uses for his Measure Success podcast. I've been working with it, and you could come to that podcast with somebody. So you would have the opportunity to be part of the conversation and build up your potential prospect a little bit, or your existing client, kind of thing. So be on the lookout for that. I'll put something in Circle, and you can contact me.
Oh, that's awesome, Paul. That's awesome, Paul. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Hey guys, I just realized that it's 10:34. So if anybody has to scoot, I unfortunately have to scoot. I'm happy to leave this up. Do you guys want to stay on? Because I'll just make someone else the host.
I
gotta
go on to the
run
next
too.
thing.
I think we need to continue this in another conversation, right? There's
Hey.
more than 5 minutes of conversation here. There's a whole nother, we could unpack this for probably 2 or 3 more calls, right?
100%. Good. The key observation here, to Mike's point, no one on this call is starved for growth drive knowledge. I worked very hard to make that happen, but we are starved for this conversation. Awesome stuff.
Great conversation, guys.
Thank you all. Okay. We'll see you next Tuesday. Be well, everyone. Have a great week. Again,
Have a good one.
if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. Okay. Bye.